Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blazing bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way, fighting forever against overwhelming odds, fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms, idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icewind, head out the show, or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay, fighting forever against overwhelming odds, fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms, idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions, idle champions, idle champions, idle champions.
Good morning, everybody. Or at least, well, I mean, look, you might be waking up right now. So, if not, it's Saturday. It's Saturday. Welcome to Gaar's Guide, the tutorial show. Today I'm gonna tutorialize you on something. Today's topic is actually feats. There are that not the things at the end of your legs, but the things at the end of the Champion UI tab. Yay! It's those things. We're going to talk about feats today. We've talked about feats before a long time ago, but back then champions only had 2 feats, and now they have more. So we're going to talk about how that changes. We're going to talk about just feats in general, and obviously that changes things because you can do a lot more with feats now than you could before. There's a lot of new types of feats, or at least I think there are a lot of new types of feats. So we're going to go over all that. With me today in the production booth is Gabe. Gabe will be grabbing your questions from chat, throwing them in a document for me, and then I'll answer them. However, I'll be doing questions in the second half of the show. So the first half of the show is me talking about everything that has to do with feats now, and the second half is, whatever you want to talk about. Whatever you want to talk about. Definitely if you have questions, definitely throw your questions in at any time. Make sure you put question colon in front of them, as it says down at the bottom of the screen, right above the chest code. And this is probably a good stream for the people who have always been like, what's a good 50k feat, gem feat for this champion? Maybe not for all champions, because there's like 120. But if you can name a specific champion or even a couple champions, go through them, because as you can see, well, maybe not as you could see, if you didn't notice, I am on an account that doesn't have anything on it. Oh no. But what this means is I have all the champions available. And we can go in, and I know where I can actually, for once, look and see where everything comes from. So if you have questions, whereas usually on my account I've already unlocked all the stuff, I don't remember which was a gem feat and what wasn't. Here I can answer those questions. Here I can answer those questions. And usually one of the burning questions that comes up on this show is, that code doesn't fit in my cryptex. If you open your cryptex, down in the bottom left here, there is a button to enlarge it to 16 characters. However, even if you're at 12 characters, if you copy paste the code in, it automatically enlarges it, and you can get your Electrum chest. Bada bing, bada boom. Alright. Oh, I should, you know. I just realized I did that on an account that I don't open chests on. But, you know, that's fine. It's fine. It'll be okay. So yeah, if you have questions, throw them in chat. I see Gabe's already grabbed one from chat, but I'm going to go ahead and dive into our topic today. So I will get to the questions in the second half, so hang out. They will get answered. They will get answered. Alright. So when you first start playing the game, the feats aren't really something, well, that you have access to. Quite literally, you have to upgrade champions a certain amount before you can access any of their feats. So let's say I unlocked Frida and I want to use... Oh, well, Frida was apparently a bad example. Gaarawarr. I unlocked Gosrick and I want to use Gosrick. I can use Gosrick. I can use Gosrick and I can get gear on Gosrick. I don't have any here, any equipment. And I can upgrade them, but feats won't be available. Because you have to get to a minimum upgrade level on the champion in any run. You know, you can go to a campaign when you first unlock a champion. Go to a campaign where you have a lot of favor, and then, you know, do a run and unlock their feat slots for them. That tends to be a kind of a standard thing that people will do. But first off, there are none. There's nothing here. It's the feat. You'll go to the feats tab. It's these triple chevron, and there's nothing here. You got to get them to that level to unlock their feats. Once you do get them to, I'm just going to go ahead and simulate here. We'll get Gosrick up 2 or beyond 245. Boom, 30, 50. That works. Suddenly, you will have a plethora of options available to you on most champions. Some champions have more feats than others. It's just kind of the way it is. You know, they're expanding some people's feat options when seasons arrive. So as they update champions and seasons, they're updating the kind of variety and type of feats that they have. Because back in the day, when there were originally there were only 2 feat slots you could unlock. You unlocked this one, and then later on you unlocked this one, and that was it forever. So they tended to have 2 default feats so that you could have 2 that you could use, and then everything else was optional. But you could still only slot 2. Well, nowadays there's 4. Now, each one that you unlock, if you noticed on Gosrick, it says I have to get to a new level. 720, alright, so now I've got to go even further. I've got to push my formations even further through a variety of methods and get enough favor to be able to unlock that one. And then the third one's locked, 1295. Do you see where this is going? 1295, right? So hey, I've pushed a lot further because it takes a lot more gold to get there. I'm up. If you'll note, the cost for that was in the E60s in gold. So it takes more and more favor. You're earning more and more favor in a campaign to be able to go deeper with these champions in terms of their upgrades, and actually get to the point where you can unlock all 4 feat slots. One of the big questions that we constantly get is, how do I unlock the 4th feat slot? It would seem straightforward, right? I just said, hey, you just level the champions up to 1, 2, and 3, right? So let's go. We need 2005 for Gosrick. So I'm just going to keep leveling Gosrick. And I got the... Oh. Gosrick won't level up anymore. Gosrick goes to 1800. But Gosrick needs 2005 or higher to unlock another feat slot. So how do you do this? Well, it has to do with this little blue button over here. This little blue button over here. Hopefully, like me, when you're playing the game, if you're a newer player, you're using these double up arrows. This means it's gonna level you. It does what on the little keyboard shortcut list here. It does what Alt Shift does. It levels to the next upgrade. That's one area, and it buys you the next upgrade. That's the other arrow. Okay, that's why it's a double up arrow. It's getting you to the next upgrade and buying it. This is the most efficient way to level, because just going like a level at a time, like the game starts you out, is pointless outside of the tutorial. Absolutely pointless. The levels in between are one at a time. Don't give you anything you need, because what you need are the upgrades, really. So how do you get here? Well, you have to just switch this again. I can go back to that X1. Now I've got to go like 205 levels, so I'm not going to do it with X1, but I can give it like, you know, these little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I do this, two things happen. This is called over leveling a champion. They have reached the soft cap, if you've heard that term, when they reach their last upgrade at 1800. That is referred to in the community as the soft cap. It's noted by this circle with a line through it. That means no more upgrades. So I'm over leveling the champion past the soft cap. Two things happen when I do this. One, they get a tiny little bit more damage. Very small. Very small. Two, they get a tiny little... They get a small heal. I won't say tiny. It's actually a small heal. It's about 20 to 30% of their health. That's, you know... I guess you could argue that's a solid heal in this game, depending on where you're at. The reason for the heal is a holdover from an old system, the old ways. Back in my day, when you leveled up a champion, every level gave them a little bit more power, a little bit more health, so their health total went up. And then to make sure that they weren't, you know... lower than full health in terms of what they had available, it gave them a little heal to top them off. Well, they took the health upgrade out and they left the heal. So it's a holdover, a little bit of a holdover that can be fun in some places. To get them to 205, I'm going to switch up here and I'm going to go boom, or 2005, and suddenly I have all 4 feat slots available. That's it, folks. You just got to turn off the double up arrow. And go for it. And go for it. Yeah, I'm going to comment on it. Normally I don't comment on things in chat, but I do, because we're explaining this, I want to make things very clear. When I say a little amount of damage, it is what was noted in chat. It's about a 1% damage increase. Which means you need lots of levels over the cap to get you any kind of significant damage boost. You know, anything that's truly noticeable. So it's not something that's going to help a lot, but it you know, if you're on the last level of a variant, you're almost there, over leveling your champion might help. But only if it's the primary DPS, right? Because raising everybody else's damage isn't going to do anything, because they're not the ones setting your bud, right? The other thing it might help if you're on the very final boss of something like, I don't know, Valindra Shadowmantle, when you're unlocking Dragon Bait and she's AoEing your whole party. If you unlock to X1 and you punch the level up buttons for your squishies that are taking lots of damage, you can keep them alive a little bit longer. That strategy is only going to work like once, because you're going to burn all of your favor, and then you're going to be so higher in your levels you won't be able to do it again. But hey, you never know, right? There's another comment about leveling 100 times more efficient earlier on. It's really not, because getting that much gold isn't a thing. It's not a thing. It's more efficient later. Almost. It's a little faster later if you have tons of gold. Like, I have tons of gold on this account Or I should say I have tons of favor on this account. It would shoot me faster to my soft cap and beyond. But early on, saving up enough gold to go 100 levels can be very problematic. So upgrades. I've run multiple new player accounts. Upgrades, most efficient way to get from 0 to infinity and beyond. All right. So once you have your feat slots available, we're going to switch off of Gosrick. Sorry, Gosrick. You're cool and all, but let's go to the tutorial dwarf himself. So once you're here, you can start slotting your feats, right? You'll start off with whatever the default feats are. The default feats are assigned to a champion, and how many there are assigned based off the role, usually. I say usually, because we're looking at Tutorial Dwarf, and Tutorial Dwarf is kind of an exception to the rule. Because they're Tutorial Dwarf, they have to actually do things that are outside of their role just in the tutorial. So for the purpose of the tutorial, they have to do damage. They have to buff other people, and they have to be able to tank, kind of. And this gets to what this type of champion. There was a time where they decided there weren't just going to be tanks and squishies. There were going to be what were called tanks, bruisers, and squishies, and they made Bruenor a bruiser. And a bruiser can do a little damage, take a little damage, and provide buffs for the team. So despite the support role here, they're going to have a damage of all champions feat, which buffs them and everyone else in the formation once it's slotted. They're going to have an increase to the effective rally, which again buffs them and anyone else in the formation. Well, not anyone else in the formation, but anyone that qualifies for rally. But then they're going to get an overwhelm feat. Now, squishies normally start with 5 overwhelm. Overwhelm is a tanking stat. It tells you how many enemies that they can handle at once before they get, wait for it, overwhelmed and start taking more damage. Squishies are usually going to be at 5. They're not meant to be getting hit by other people. Bruenor can slot this and bump that up to 10, so he can be a little tankier. He still is only going to have a tiny little bit of health. Let's get Bruenor in. He's still only going to have 108 HP, so he can't get hit real hard. But in the tutorial, it's fine, right? It's fine. So that's why you're going to see Bruenor's going to be a little off with like an overwhelm feat. And there are other bruisers that exist. Jamila, aka Jam Jam. She is also considered a bruiser. So she has a overwhelm feat, and her overwhelm actually starts higher. She's not a tank, folks. She's not. She's a pure DPS, but again, they were attempting to try out this bruiser thing, and anyway, they're also going to have other feats available to them that you can scroll down, and there are different ways to obtain different feats, and we're going to have three of the 4 ways. I think there's 4 ways now. One of the ways you can obtain other feats is by buying them with gems. You can use your hard-earned gems that you get off of bosses and as rewards from completing basic adventures and variants. You can spend them on feats. Now, there are 2 levels of gem feats. There is the 12,500 feat, which usually grants you rare feats. Those are the blue ones. And there's 50,000 gem feats. Those are the epics. That's the big feat. That's usually a much bigger effect, or something special that you normally wouldn't be applied to this champion. It's going to be from gems. One of the other more generic ways is, hey, they're available in gold chests. They are part of the drop loot table in regular gold chests. These are regular gold chests, folks. So not in the named gold chests for a champion. You don't have to worry about doing time gates for event champions to get their feats. Just those regular gold chests that drop off bosses occasionally, or that you buy from the shop with gems or cash. They have feats as part of their drop table. Now, it is random. Obviously, there's 120 champions in the game, and they have a lot of feats. So there's usually at least 2 gold chest feats, 1 or 2 gold chest feats, maybe up to like 4 or 5, and all of that's part of the loot table, along with everything else that's in a gold chest. So their chance in dropping is 1 in 25 chests. However, there's no pity timer, which means there's no bad luck protection, which means you could open 100 chests and see 0 feats. RNG gonna RNG. So it is, sometimes you might want one of these. You might want it real bad. You just gotta buy lots of gold chests and try to get it. It's just kind of the way it is. As opposed to targeting a specific feat with lots of gems. Now remember, this is a regular gold chest is 500 gems. Oops, that's the wrong button. And I don't like to do math on stream, even when it's pretty straightforward. The 12,500 that you might spend on a specific rare feat is the same price as 25 regular gold chests. So you're trying, in those 25 regular gold chests, basically with the timer being there, or not with the timer, with the odds being at 25, they're saying these are equivalently usually worth 12,500 gems, but it's random, right? It's random. And then the third way that you can get feats that aren't default is from patrons. So when you eventually unlock patrons, different patrons are going to have their own kind of stuff that they sell in their shop. Patrons will have feats for certain champions. You can see it obviously here on the champion UI, or when you open up the I don't have that unlocked here. When you unlock a patron, there will be a shop tab, and you can scroll down and see what feats they have available. Forgot on this count. I have no progress. None at all. All right, so you can get them for a cost. It's going to be that patron's currency, and the amount of currency is there. It's a lot. Hold on. Let me take a look. Actually, I have my other account up. So like the athlete feat for Bruenor is going to be 10,000 of Mert's currency. However, there are other feats that Mert offers that are like 25,000 of their currency. So you're looking at either a 10,000 or 25,000 for Mert. Is it the same for all of them? It might be all. It's either going to be a 10 or 25k spend. Yeah. For feats from patrons. Okay. There is one other way now to get feats. I think it is. Oh, nope, I was wrong. It is. Okay, there's more. They've been adding more and more ways to deliver content. So, the Thayan Enclave, folks. The Thayan Enclave. This is the fourth way, and there's 5 ways. The fourth way you can get feats is via the Thayan Enclave. This is these are golden epics. These are outfits. But these are feats. Feat cards, when you pull them out of a chest, have the green iris. This is Iris the Beholder, folks, if you didn't know. The art on the back of cards is Iris. So you can tell what kind of item the card is giving you based off the color of Iris. If it's a golden, that means it's a golden epic. If it's a silvery color, that means you just got a shiny. If it's green, that means it's a feat. Otherwise, I think it's just white. Isn't it? Or is it red? I don't remember. I'll have to open something up. But just know, green is feats. Green is feats. So you can get feats from the Thayan Enclave. You earn the currency from this during occasional emergence events. I will tell you straight up front, I don't think it's an efficient way to spend your currency for the Thayan Enclave. Because here's what happens. This is going to remain in this shop for a specific amount of time. and then it's going to leave the shop. Like, there were multiple other feats here from a previous emergence event. They have gone away. Where did they go away? Well, they go into limbo for a little bit, where they're not available at all. Then they get added to the game via another method. It could be, depending on it could be like a 50,000 gem feat, or it could be a regular gold chest feat. It's going to get added in one of those two slots. How it gets added in is going to be based partially probably on the border color, but not always. For sure, if you ever see a feat, this is something I should point out. If you ever see like a feat pack, so it's got like here, this pack for Dragonlance Myria comes with a feat. It's Soth's right hand. Not literally, it's just they're the right hand of Soth. This feat, whenever they make something available for cash, like this in a feat pack, at the same time, it becomes available for 50,000 gems. So any cash shop feat is going to convert into a 50,000 gem feat. So that's why these could potentially be a 50,000 gem feat, or it may, just because they're like, hey, it's an epic, maybe we'll make it a gem feat, or it could go into regular gold chests. It could get added to the loot table for regular gold chests. We haven't seen, I don't think we've seen the emergence event feats re-emerge yet. I don't think it's been long enough. It can be like 3 months. It can be 6 months. They want to keep them exclusive to whatever kind of special offering they're doing before they bring them into something else from when it comes to the Thayan Enclave. And also the other new way you can get them is seasons. Seasons, they want things to be exclusive for an amount of time as well, and I believe it's about 6 months. So season rewards can also be feats, as we see down here. Caddy Bree has a feat, like at level 6. This is in the season pass path. So this is in the paid path. There's a feat that's available that you can get. There are feats throughout this. For different champions. Let's see, here's 2. Here's one in the free, the free path for Puent. But if you do not pick these up in the season, like I said, let's say there's a higher level one that you just don't get to, like up here for Artemis. Let's say you're not able to get even here on the free to play path, let alone and along with all the stuff that was on the paid. If you didn't do paid, that is going to show up still in their list, but for a while it will just be blank, and there will be no way to get it. And then later it's going to get added back as either a gem feat or a gold chest feat. We have had some of the season stuff re-enter the game via regular play. And so far, the ones that I've seen, I'm not saying this is all of them, but the ones that I've come across recently, came back as gold chest feats. So they just went right into the pool of gold chest feats from seasons. I don't know if that's for all of them. I just know that the ones that I ran into that I didn't get in prior seasons came back as gold chest feats. Actually, I wouldn't say that I didn't get. The ones that I checked when I was double checking on this account, they show up now as gold chest feats. Because I used to have them listed in my guides. All of my guides have where you can get the feats listed. Well, updating all of those currently to make sure that they're up to date. But usually it's going to be, like the season ones have switched so far into regular gold chest feats. If something is only available via like a wild offer or a pack, like again, anything from the cash shop, it may look like, oh, you've got to throw down money to get this feat, right? If I want Archon's damage to go up by 120%, I got to pay $10 for it. But again, if we go to Archon and we look, that feat's already going to be over here. Here it is, Weapon Master, 120% damage. You can see, you can go buy it for cash in the shop, or if you have 50,000 gems, you can spend the gems. They're giving you an either or when it comes to the ones that are introduced that way. Now, once that pack leaves the shop, if it's no longer available, the shop option here will go away, and it's just going to be 50,000 gems. Okay, I think I've beat those feet with a dead horse. No, I don't know. We're basically, I think I've covered the fact that, hey, guess what? Cash stuff's 50,000 gems. I think we get it now, right? All right, so let's talk about how different roles are going to affect the type of feat options that are available. So we talked about Bruner's a little bit of an odd duck, so we're going to take Bruner out. We're going to put in Celeste, who is a support champion and a healing champion. We'll have Nieli, who's support and tank. We'll have Delina, who's just DPS. Yeah. That should cover... Oh. Nope. And Jarlaxle, who's DPS and Goldfind. All right. That should cover everything. So if I have the healing and support roles, what I know about my feats, even before looking at this, I shouldn't even have looked, I'm going to have a default feat for support and a default feat for healing, at least. If I come over here, that is true. I have the default feat for support is always going to be Selflessness. It's always going to be damage of all champions by 10%. And the default feat for any healer, even if they're not putting out heals, even if what they're doing is providing shields, which is qualified under the healing role, it's going to be medic. It's going to increase the effect by 15%. So that's going to be how you're going to see default feats for healing and support. And if we come over here, we have tanking and support. So again, we see support, we see selflessness. Tanking, we already talked about defensive duelist, but the other thing you get as a tank that bruisers don't get is tough. This increases their health by a percentage. This is because unlike every other champion in the game, as you level up someone with the tanking role, their health goes up too at certain intervals. That is one of the things that they upgrade is the total amount of health. So they get a feat that's going to raise their total amount of health as a default. So a tank should have health and overwhelm, 2 default feats for one role, because they have 2 things that they default need to change. Support should, at the very least, be a selflessness. Sometimes support's also going to have a feat that targets one of their specific support abilities at a low amount, like a 20% amount. And that's where we saw to your king here with Bruner's Rally. Okay, it's not for everyone. Everybody doesn't have these yet, but one of the things that they're doing when they're making these passes and looking at champions is adding in a wider array of feats, both default and otherwise. Okay, now for DPS Gold, these are 2 things we haven't talked about before. DPS is going to be, hey, straight up damage. Hey, increase their damage by 30%. That's going to be their default feat. They've just added crit to the game. Like every champion now has a chance to crit with crit damage. So I don't know if I mean, we're going to wait and see as they start touching all the DPS champions, like reworking them. Jarlaxle got a 5% crit chance boost as a default feat. We may see this everywhere. I don't know if this is going to happen to everyone or if it's because Jarlaxle has a passive that raises his base crit chance. Not sure yet, because this is a new thing to the game. Champions with the gold find role, though, should also have the frugal feat, which increases gold found by 10%. Should. Again. You know, there's exceptions to every rule in Idle Champion. That's the one rule of Idle Champion, is there's exceptions to every rule. It's the only thing that you can rely on. So, you know, most of the time this is what you should see. If we go to Delina, we're just going to see, oh, hey, Delina, they needed to give her 2 feats because everybody should have at least a default of 2. So they gave Delina the self-damage, but then they boosted one of her abilities. Because she is only DPS, it means that all of her abilities are going to boost her own damage. So she actually gets 2 damage boosting feats as a default. One is straight up the 30% that's normal as the Adept feat, and then another one is a 20% that's based off one of her ability effects. Okay, you're going to see this mixed and matched, like Archon is DPS tanking, So he gets self-damage plus the tanking feats. Again, Jamila's a bruiser. You can tell because they gave her a DPS and then they gave her Overwhelm. Tyrell is tanking, healing, and support. You'll note they're missing something here, which hopefully might come in a later update. There is no Overwhelm feat default for Tyrell. Instead, they gave the support, they gave the health boost, and then they gave the healing boost. So again, not everyone has been updated per kind of these new rules. But they're going to get there. Now, we do see up here under roles, there is DPS, support, and speed for Minsk. It might lead you to believe that there's going to be a default speed feat. And no. No. Speed was a role added to the game kind of as an afterthought, // community request. Originally, champions had a speed effect, but there was no actual role tag for it. It was slightly confusing. It made it so that you had to go and dig and through every champion in the game to try to find who had speed. I mean, arguably still do, but by tagging it, you could at least see very quickly instead of having to read through all of their abilities. There aren't speed feats for every speed champion. Some champions have speed feats, but they're not default feats. So yeah. So you're just going to see the other tags represented in their situation. So if we go through, I just want to click through all of the base champions. We've seen them all. They all have those same kind of default feats. And even as you go into the more extended champions with a lot more going on in their kits than the core champions, their default feats are, this is how it's always going to work. It's just the way it is. You can tell by their support, like by their role tags, what kind of feats they're going to get. The only time it's going to be a little off and maybe somewhat confusing is when they're a bruiser, because there's nothing anywhere here that says that Bruner's a bruiser. It's literally a holdover from, like, if you read the blog for the tanking, shielding, and healing update that happened a long time ago. That's when they tried to introduce bruisers to the game, and you just would have had to read that blog and know who they are. Sorry, folks. So those are the feats. You can mix and match these feats as much as you want. Obviously, when you assign them, you can also now remove them. That wasn't always a thing. Back in my day, once you put them in, they were there unless you replaced them with something else. That was the only way to do it, was to replace with another one. But now we have a remove button, so you can add, you can remove to your heart's content, which I know may seem odd, but sometimes it is very helpful just to be able to pull something out, even if you're leaving it empty. So keep that in mind. Questions that we usually get are like, what should I be targeting? Like, what kind of feat should I add to this champion? Like, what are the best ones to use? The general rule of thumb is the higher the number, the better. I say this isn't, again, exceptions to every rule. The general rule is the higher number, the better. So, damage of all champions by 10%, damage of all champions by 25%. Gee, I wonder which one I would prioritize putting in, right? So you're going to see, again, if something starts off at 10%, there's also ways that you know this is going to upgrade. Something starts off at 10, it's going to go to 25 with a blue and 50 with an epic. There is an epic inspiring leader. It's called Prodigal Leader. That's a 50%. If something starts at 20%, it's going to go to 40 with the blue and 80 with the purple. Defensive Duelist goes 5 and 10, and I don't think there's 15. There might be. If there's an epic, it's probably 15. Is my recollection? No, does Tyrell have the epic? Oh no, 10. Yeah, Calm Under Pressure is 10, and I think the epic is 15. So yeah, usually the bigger the number, the better. There are situations where that doesn't apply. Yeah, there are situations where that doesn't apply. There are times when the ability itself, you might have an ability, you don't have a feat for an ability that's an 80% bonus, but a 40% ability for another, 40% feat for another ability might be better, because one ability might be better than another. please learn your champion's abilities and what they do. That's on you. But if you know what they are and you know they're comparable to each other, the bigger the number, the better. So there are going to be these types of feats that buff, these basic things. Then we're going to get into effect feats. So like this is Rally, this is Dwarven Glory. Any effect a champion might have could potentially be supported by feats. Some will be, some won't be. That's just that's the way they want to do it. The other type of a feat you're going to see a lot of are these stat feats. This is going to increase one of these stats over here on the left by the number listed. The blues are +1, the purples are +2. Obviously, Bruenor doesn't have any epic stat feats. These are going to do a variety of things. Just slotting them in and of itself doesn't change the character. If I slot Bruenor's strength by 1, his damage doesn't go up because of +1 strength. That's how it would work in Dungeons and Dragons. But this is a Dungeons and Dragons themed game. It isn't Dungeons and Dragons. Okay? So, what this could do is it might make them eligible for somebody else's ability. Like if there was if another champion had an ability that said all champions with a strength score of 18 or higher, whereas he's 17, so he would have to slot athlete to get to 18, receive my bonuses. Then this could raise their damage, or it might make them tank better, or might do who knows what, right? It could actively get them to a point where they qualify for something from another champion. One of the other things that it can do is it can qualify for you for variants. There might be an adventure variant out there that says only champions with a strength 18 or higher can be used. So the only way you'd be able to use Bruenor is if you slot the strength feat. Another thing is there are restrictions, kind of like variants. There are restrictions in Trials of Mount Tiamat, which is kind of the mid to end game content currently, where each day a different restriction applies, and some of the restrictions are stats. There are different levels of different tiers of stat restrictions, and you might need to slot a stat to be able to qualify for that Trials run. Like there may be, I think 13 is one of the cutoff points. So if there was a Charisma 13, you'd have to slot the Charisma feat to get Bruenor to 13 to be used in that Trials run. And finally, one more thing. Patrons sometimes have buffs that they provide, and those buffs might require you having a certain level of a certain stat. Strahd is the notable one here. Strahd will boost anyone. It has a global effect where he boosts the damage of anyone with 13 intelligence. So sometimes one of the things you might want to do is if someone is at 12 int, slotting a +1 stat feat boosts, I want to say it's like 100, is it 120%? Hold on, I gotta look at Strahd real quick. I want to say their perk is 150%. So Best and Brightest increases damage of champions within 13 or higher by 150%. So if I wanted to, if Delina's intelligence was 12, I could slot a +1 intelligence feat and and that feat would just by that patron alone would be providing me 150% more damage, which is better than 30% more, right? So this is a situation where like I'm only putting a stat up by 1, but I'm getting way more than any of the actual feats would do, right? So that's something you have to keep in mind once you get to the patron portion and you have perks. Keeping an eye on that is something that's important. And another thing to keep an eye on with stat feats is we have Modron cores, and Modron cores have buff nodes, little places where you hook up the flow and they provide a buff. Some of those are stat based. So again, getting to reach those stats could be a good thing, because there's lots of ways that might be buffing your damage. Now stats can go both ways though. There are times when there aren't negative stat feats, but there are times where maybe a variant says you can't have anybody with you can't use anybody with int 13 or higher, in which case having that int feat slotted actually works against you. So you would need to go go click the remove button, pull it out, slot a different feat, and do that variant. But then you could go back to that feat afterwards. There's also champions who might want your stats to be lower than a certain number. Again, if you can't, don't just slot that those feats and say, oh, it's always going to be the best situation. It's not always. It's not always. Okay, so these are kind of the basic feats that you're going to see. You're going to see these boosts, like here's the bigger version of damage all champions. Here's a bigger version of health. Epics are always going to be like the 80% version down here. Damage goes 30, 60, 90, or 30, 60, 120, I think. That's what we have with Archon. So Self-Tavern Brawler into Grappler at 60%, into Weapon Master at 120%. So it scales a little differently. The gold find feats, you'll notice there's no default gold find feat. There isn't even a gold roll here. However, Archon has a gold feat. What? Archon, what? For some reason, in one of Archon's reworks, they gave him an item that gives gold. And it scales. But they never gave him the gold find roll. But they gave him a gold find feat. A large one, too. 50%. So sometimes feats are going to be like, what? Yeah. They're also going to throw, and one of the reasons I came to Archon is they're going to throw occasionally at you a unique feature. See what I did there? That isn't normal. It has nothing to do with like their kit. It might have to do with their lore, like their backstory. And Archon's one of those. So Archon has the Hand of Vecna feat. Because canonically, Archon stole the Hand of Vecna from Vox Machina. Well, he chopped it off Vecna, arguably. But then he ran away with it. So he has a feat where if you slot the Hand of Vecna, he gets a 240% damage boost. But he takes damage constantly. Because Vecna. Because Vecna is a corrupting force. So there are some feats that add some interesting things. You might get a huge damage boost, but it could come at a cost. There are a lot of strange feats in there. I don't say strange, but they're adding functionality through feats. I want to come to Human for this. We're gonna have to level him up a bit. Did I get? Nope, 450. Most people nowadays learn about Human really quickly. Human is a support and speed champion, so you're going to see the support default and a support buff default feat. But if we come down, remember how I said there aren't default speed feats? There are speed feats in the game for some champions. So they've been adding these with the reworks lately from seasons. So Human has one called The Path is Clear, and it increases the game speed by 10% when the formation's not under attack. This has absolutely nothing to do with Human's kit. Absolutely nothing. But they're a speed champion. So they added, their speed effect works differently, but they added this so that you could have even a little bit more of a boost. This functions like a tiny little speed potion, but only when the formation's not under attack. They also added one that changes their ability, but it changes the number of things the ability counts, which is vastly different than just saying I'm going to boost the ability effect by 40% or 80%. They're changing a number. This makes it highly situational. This means it was from the Thayan Enclave. It's no longer there. We were just there, so this actually is a lie. You can't buy it from the Thayan Enclave. But at some point it's going to be available either in a gold chest or for gems. But this just changes it, increments a number that it's getting counted by 3. And situationally, this could either be a pointless feat or it could be an amazing feat. It's up to you to figure out what situations it's going to be good in. Okay, so they are adding it's neat that this is called Neverwinter Diversity. They're adding diversity to the types of feats that are available They're not nowadays. They're not just going to be these straight up percentage boosts. They could be a variety of different things. And at the bottom, we have another one of these situations. This feat was available as part of the season, I believe. It's now regular gold chest feat, but this is immolation. Again, nothing to do with their kit. It's just they added a feat to add some more functionality to Human as a support champion to potentially boost their use in pushing situations as opposed to just speed, because they tend to be more highly leaned on for speed situations. This adds an additional 1 second of bud damage that lasts for 5 seconds to all of their attacks, which is a fantastic functionality addition in certain circumstances. It isn't going to be something that you slot and always leave in. It's going to be something that you use when you're dealing with hit-based or armored enemies. So those segmented, the health that looks like in chunks. 1 second of bud damage every 5 seconds means 5 separate hits just from their one base attack. So you get their base attack and then 5 more hits that are based off bud. Now, if their base attack, if it's a hit-based thing, that's 6 chunks that get removed. If it's an armored thing, well, their hit probably isn't doing anything, not near your wall. But if your bud's high enough, you could remove 5 segments with this. On every one of their attacks, they'll get to tick off 5 segments. So this is a pretty cool feature now via this feat. Not something that you're going to see on all champions. They're starting to test them out and add these just in the last year, I would say, via seasons. So you're going to see a variety of different feats. Again, crit chance is new. What other kind of funky? I'll have to think about the other kind of funky ones. I think Human really represents a lot of the strangeness that's come in around feats. We have new stuff for Companions of the Hall. Well, some of the Companions of the Hall. Let's throw Wolfgar in. They also have, we saw these weird logo sign things. They have Mithril Hall stacks. So this is like the one I talked about where they're incrementing a number, like we saw with Human. So Mithril Hall stacks are they'll increase contribution by 1. These are feats that just got added this season and that are earnable this season. That's what this logo is. This is the logo for season 4. So these are available on the reward track, but these increment a counter and on an ability and thus make that ability better. So they are doing a lot of different types of things nowadays with feats. So you really have to pay attention and read what they're doing. We'll go talk about Briv too. Also, like I said, not all champions, hashtag not all champions, are going to be, are going to have 4 available feats. A lot of them are only going to have 2. As they're coming through with these reworks, because there's 4 feat slots now, it feels like they're trying to give you 4 default. Whether they succeed or not, a whole other story. Let's look at Briv. So Briv is a tanking, healing, support, and speed champion. That's right, folks. Briv does it all. And he does it all too well, unfortunately. Briv is a Taylor Swift song. If we come all the way down here... If we come all the way up here, Briv has a feat called Wasting Haste. It caps one of his effects. So it puts an artificial limit on it. This could be incredibly confusing to people. Like, why would you not want an effect to get bigger? Why? Briv is, again, this is something that they tailored specifically for Briv. It is unique currently to Briv. Briv has a speed ability that lets him jump lots and lots of infinite number of areas. And it goes up. He has his item support for it, so the more item levels you get, the further he can jump. The community has found through lots of testing that there are efficient numbers to get to. Like certain numbers for jumping are more efficient than others when it comes to speeding through content. And one of those numbers is getting Briv to what gets referred to in the community as a 4-jump or 4-skip Briv. So if you've seen 4J Briv in chat and before, that is one of, like, that's the first goal, like, big goal people try to get to. But what happens is, with the way Briv works, is if you get the item levels too high, you get that 4-jump, but then there's a chance to jump 5 areas, and that actually slows him down for what they're using the speed for. I know it's weird. I know it sounds weird. But what you're looking for with Briv is reliability and repeatability, like the perfect repetition of jumps. And this is for Briv gem farming. So this Wasting Haste caps him at 4 jumps. Now, it doesn't put you at 4 jumps. You can't just slot this and suddenly you have a 4-jump Briv. You have to boost the item levels to get there. But once you get there, you can slot this, and then you can keep opening chests that have gear for Briv in it, like Electrum chests, and not worry about going over on your numbers. It keeps him at that locked position until you remove it. So this is a big deal. It's something that, people who have invested lots in Briv, this is what they use. So that they don't have to worry if they're in the 4-jump range. Because usually the next big increase is 9 jumps. There's some talk about 6, I think. I don't know. 4 jump. I'm at 4 jumps on my account. And so I use this feat. That's it. That's what it's for. It doesn't put you there. It just stops you there. It is a very situational thing. So if you don't understand, and it's a prime example of, if you don't understand why a feat even exists, just ask. It's not a stupid question. I know there are people who are like, I don't want to ask. I'm going to sound stupid. No, ask the question. Like, everyone in this game has asked questions from the beginning. I know the information I know because either I or someone else asked questions of the developers, so or of other players. So, ask away. But just know there are going to be some odd and strange and unique feats in the game that do things nowadays that maybe other champions, don't have, and it would be cool if they did. They tend to try them out on a champion and then see how it goes, and then if people are liking those types of feats, then they expand them to other champions. But it's not going to come all at once. It's just going to be, like with the seasons, they introduce new feats. With packs from the shop, they introduce new feats. Like your freely got a gold find, so not super different, but but he didn't have it before, and that's how that's gonna show up. Does Krull get a unique one? No. Dark Order synergy. Ugh. Some feats are better than others, folks. Those are all the damage. That's the damage in a pack. I'm wondering if there's anybody who got something cool. Oh, Strength of Zorbu by 2. Okay. Yeah, I don't know that there's any functionality. Oh, Immolation. Here you go. So Nixie got an Immolation one. So yeah. So sometimes they will introduce these via these packs. But again, if it shows up in the store, broken record at this point. If it shows up in the store for cash, the moment it shows up in the store, it should be available as a gem feat for 50,000. For 50,000 gems. Okay. All right, folks. I think we're gonna call it there. We're gonna do a short musical interlude, and then I'm gonna hit up the questions. We only have about 9 questions so far, so I guess it's gonna be a real boring rest of the show. No, we got another hour, folks. So please fire away whatever questions you have. It doesn't have to just be about feats. It can be about anything. And we'll go there. What song are we listening to right now? I don't remember. Oh, in honor of the updates to the Light of Xerxes campaign, of which we're getting more, I think, next week, too. This is Spelljammin'. Enjoy.
my naughty lords taking flight. Them pirates got me in their sight, oh no. All aboard for a trip to the stars. Sailing planner wins on a space card. Space Dragon's treasure's gonna be ours, let's go. Whether you're a gift merchant or gift, everyone is welcome on the skiff. Spell jamming, no planning. Spell jamming, on the ship we're hanging. So much bigger than your hometown. Don't look back as we look to ground. Keep an eye out for these space clowns, oh no. Watch out for hamsters, both giant and small. Gonna claim your ship as their own space ball. Better run before we get mauled, gotta go. Viking has a or even space gold. Everyone is welcome on this boat. Spell jamming, no planning. Spell jamming, on this ship we're hanging. Astral space is nowhere to get lost. Hauling cargo to cover our costs. If you wanna hear the call of a space whale, come join our crew. We're about to set sail. Spell jamming, no planning. Spell jamming, on this ship we're hanging. Spell jamming, prepare for ramming. Spell jamming, come feast or famine. Spell jamming.
I was sitting here and I'm like, I was a question get copied into my document over here. And then just a lot of random letters and numbers. And I'm all like, Gabe, you okay? Is there a cat on the keyboard? It's that or Gabe fell asleep and just went like right on the keyboard. And I don't know which. So I was like, which right as I switched the thing, I looked over and I'm like, it's just kind of funny. This whole sequence here. All right, folks. I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna check out and see if we have anything that's on topic first, and then I'll just go into generic stuff. But again, now would be a great time to ask, like, hey, what are good feats for this champion? In the meantime, I put in my Sword Coast starter formation because why not? Even though I'm not even trying to progress. Let's see. Regis 2K. Oh, if you could rank feats generally, what order would they be in? And they listed off like the generic: increase all champs damage, gold find, champion specific skills, overwhelm power. Yeah, it doesn't really work that way. again, bigger number is better. That's kind of how ranking usually goes, is just the bigger the number, the better. Now, it's because it's situational. It's situational, and it's dependent on the champion, right? Like for tanking, like on a tanking champion, if I'm trying to go really, really far, if I'm trying to go further, I think we've discussed it's not further or farther in Idle Champions, it's further. If I'm trying to go further into an adventure, um, a combination of health feats and overwhelm feats can be better than buffing my damage boosts to the formation. The reason being, there's a certain point that you'll get to where, and you have to kind of determine this on your own. You've got to learn to read the situation, where what's stopping you isn't that you're not killing them fast enough. It's that they're killing you too fast, and you might think, well, we'll just kill them faster, and that's fine. But not always, not always, and you need to determine that by what, like, are your tanks coming online? Are they providing the damage bonuses that are really going to help you? Or are they dying before they get to that point? Like, there are points that you'll get to in real deep pushes where tanks can just get one shot. Or maybe killed 3 or 4. Like, they're not even getting to a point where they can ramp up any damage bonuses for you or turn on any of their effects. In which case, you're going to need to find some way to keep them alive. If they're dying before they get to their base overwhelm number, they need more health. Their health needs to go up. And their health can go up from feats, or it can go up by adding another tank to the formation. Maybe a tank that buffs by not being the one in the front line, right? There are tanks who give their bonuses without needing to be hit. And there are tanks that need to be hit. You know, to each their own. So you need to understand those tanks. So there's like Dragon Bait. Dragon Bait famously just buffs within a certain number. Doesn't have to be the one getting hit. If the boss is starting to tick up that enrage timer, that bar that fills up, Dragon Bait then boosts bigger, even if he's not in the front. Right? Ayla is another great option for a tank support that doesn't need to be attacked. There's nothing about her kit that says she has to be hit to provide the debuffs that she does that helps you push further, right? So sometimes you can add a tank to make your add a tank somewhere else in the formation to make the tank in the front more survivable, and then those health feats that you also put in, because they said this new tank is sharing their health, those health feats are now even nicer, right? So sometimes if they're dying before you get to the overwhelm number, like here, Tyrell, no, Tyrell's not going to work. Niali's overwhelm is 20. If I'm dying before I get 20 enemies on Niali, or 21, because 21 is when more damage would start coming in with all of their attacks. Once you break overwhelm, every enemy does more damage. If I'm dying before I get to 21 enemies, I need more health. But if I'm dying at like 25, or if I'm dying between like 20 and 25, and it looks like it's just a spike that's suddenly happening, then I could throw in the 5. And maybe that lets me get a little bit further. A little more survivability might let me finish the adventure I'm on. Right? Or if I need to go up by 10, or if I need to slot them both and get to 35. Right? There's even a champion, a Freely, that if he's placed within 2 slots of a tank that's taking damage, gives them 5 more overwhelm. So there's ways that you have to, it's really situational, like for tanks, because you need to know, like, am I keeping people alive? Do I need to keep them alive to get to these points? And maybe there's champions, maybe you have support champions in your team that need more time to do what they're doing. Krull is famous for this. Krull, I've said before, Krull doesn't necessarily care what kind of DPS you're using with them. Jarlaxle's a no-no for reasons, but everybody else is great. But what Krull really wants is a beefy front line, because Krull has to take time to spread plagues, and as he spreads different kind of plagues, they need to tick up and get to higher numbers. But there's 3 different kinds of plagues to spread, and you have to hit a single enemy 3 different times to get all 3 on them. And there's lots of enemies coming out, and he attacks at random, and it can take a while to get things where you want them, which means you need a tank that can survive a long time. But it's worth it. So this is one. This is like one example of it. It depends. It depends. But that might be an example where this is the example of where, hey, maybe you want survivability feats in instead of damage feats. Now, to take that survivability somewhere else, maybe you want survivability feats like Song of Protection, which is Calliope's shields. Because this is another way you could keep your tank alive. Shields are actually a fantastic... Shields on Calliope and Antreus specifically, and any self-shields on like Ayla and Tyrell, are a great way to mitigate large amounts of damage, because they go up to double or more of a champion's health total, so they can add a lot of extra effective health to a champion. So sometimes just increasing the shield amount might create a survivability situation, because what you really need is that tank. You have the damage, you are almost through, you just need to stay alive longer. Again, I always go back to the Valindra Shadow Mantle battle for this, because this is the Dragonbait unlock variant in Tomb of Annihilation. That is kind of the first place where people get smacked in the face, and are taught via that smack in the face that, oh, you need to learn not just to build glass cannon parties that do lots of damage. You need to learn to build parties that can survive, that can take damage while dishing it out. And Valindra is the best teacher of that in this game. Valindra is a place where shields matter, where having multiple tanks matter, where how often you apply the shields matter. It's the one of the rare times in this game where I will pick Calliope's spec that makes her put shields out faster instead of her damage boost, right? Like, it's survivability can be a big deal, and is more often than people think. A lot of people just try to overpower things, and then they get real confused when they get to a situation that doesn't allow you to overpower it. So these are things you have to keep in mind with this. Another thing to keep in mind early on, when you're at the point, like we talked about a soft cap, like we talked about getting, where's our buddy Gosrick? We talked about getting Gosrick to his soft cap, and we talked about how, but this is the last of his upgrades. Gosrick can't get any more powerful here. If I have enough favor to get Gosrick to soft cap on a run pretty quickly, like before I'm finished with my adventure, gold find isn't something I need to worry about in my formation. However, when you're brand new, there's a couple reasons why Jarlaxle is kind of your go-to DPS champion. It's because he provides gold, DPS damage, and gold. And sometimes gold is more important than damage. Not always. Everything in moderation as well. But if we level Jarlaxle up, when you're playing with Jarlaxle, it might be tempting to boost his damage by 100%. That's what this left Secret Lord of Luxon spec does. It just makes him 100% stronger, and people might go, ooh, that's great. But in actuality, boosting his gold find by 100% is stronger, as is, 30% more damage is great, but 10% more gold is fantastic. It may not seem that way, but it is. And the reason it is because if I'm earning more gold, I'm able to upgrade Jarlaxle faster. And just getting Jarlaxle 1 upgrade, as we see here, is a 300% damage bonus. And because he's boosting gold for everyone, you're able to grab these bonuses. Here's a double right here, just for a small amount of gold, right? It's going to be more by the time you get there. But the point is if you're earning more gold by choosing a spec for Jarlaxle early on, when you need more gold to level, because you need to be able to push further. Gold can be a very big deal, and gold can be a strong option for feats. Now, if you had like this higher one feat, you would want like, maybe I would prefer like a 25 plus the 30. I don't know that I would put in 5% crit. It is a little bit more. It is some more damage. I might do it, but it's only a 5% more chance to do double damage, right? So there's things you have to keep in mind. But like this one, hey, this is a gold find feat. I really should have the coin here. Master of Piracy, 80%. So there's a reason why they give Jarlaxle lots of gold feats. It's because, Jarlaxle's kind of the big early booster for you for gold, and earning more gold can matter. So sometimes slotting gold feats on these champions that you're using when you're not to the point where you've reached your soft cap, where you still need to upgrade champions on a run. Having more gold, slotting gold feats for them, or choosing their gold find option in some cases can be better than choosing the damage boost. Krull is another big version of this. Krull has 3 options available for his specializations. He has one that doubles your gold find. He has one that doubles the direct damage you do to an enemy, and one that doubles the AoE damage that pulses off of those enemies. You want Pilfer. You want the gold. It is very rare that I ever pick one of these others, and it's very it's a small situation where I already know I have enough gold to do everything. I just want to boost either damage or rate or AoE burst. Most of the time, and especially for new players, you want Pilfer. It is incredibly strong on Krull because Krull has multiplicative stacking effects. So it ends up being more than just 100%. Like it's a big deal. It's a big deal on Krull. Krull is an early game snowball champion, and I really wish that his holiday skin, instead of being the Krampus skin, which is fantastic, I will say, I wish he'd just been a big snowball with spikes sticking out in his head, because he's an early game snowball champion to help new players. So picking a feat, like picking his specific Pilfer and giving him anything that boosts Pilfer, anything that boosts gold find, is kind of important for him. He goes all the way up to 80% Pilfer too. It's huge on Krull. So it depends. It's situational to the champion, and it's situational to what's going on your screen. Like if I'm to my final boss, and I'm just trying to get the damage and survivability I need to beat it, I can swap those gold find feats out. Don't need them for that, right? So it's hard to rank things because like with so many things in this game, it's situational. It's situational. Good question though. Degozaruyo, do feat buffs stack? Yes. Or is only the strongest version applied? No. So, example, if we had 2 rally feats for Brunar, are both applied or just the most powerful? It is both. And here's the thing. If I have 20% rally and 40% rally, they both go in and they're both separate multipliers. So it's not an additive thing for these percentages unless it states it is. It is 20%. It isn't 20% plus 40% giving me a 60% bonus. It's a 20% multiplier. If I have 100 rally, I now have 120 rally. And then, because I can't do math on stream, and then if I up that by if I add the other 40%, I now have 168 rally. Right? So it's not These percentages aren't additive. They are separate multipliers. They're not additive. They're multiplicative unless they state otherwise. So overwhelm is just a flat number. It's going to add. Wisdoms and stat feats are straight numbers. They're going to add. So anything that has a flat number, it's probably going to add. But when it says it's an effect by a percentage, it's multiplicative. And they all count. And they all count. Eternal Ponderer. What are the chances of receiving a feat from a gold chest? 1 in 25. So 4% every time you roll, but there's no bad luck protection. Also, do you only receive feats for champions you've unlocked from gold chests? Yes! Good catch. Yeah, you can't... In the way this game works, when you're looking at drop loot from a generic chest, so a chest that contains gear for a multitude of champions, if you don't own that champion, you can't get gear for it out of that chest. And that can be like these weekend chests that are going on right now, that like this Wings of Freedom weekend. Pull up, where's chest? Wings of Freedom. So these drop gear for these 5 champions, but you might only own these 3. You might only own, or these 2. You might only own Nieli and Ashara because you might be brand new. So you might not have Briv, Strongheart, or Caddy Bree. In which case, the only gear that's going to drop out of these chests, if you get them, are gear for Nieli and Ashara. If you have Strongheart, because he was in the last event, you'd get the chance to get these. But there would no gear would drop for Briv or Caddy Bree if you didn't own them. Now, if it was a named chest, like a gold Dob chest, if it literally says, gold, insert champion name here, chest, I can open these chests and get gear for that champion. And it will, if I don't own them, it will go in their closet and they will be able to put it on when I own them. But when it is the generic chests, you can't. And generic chests include silver chests, gold chests, and electrum chests. It's not going to drop anything for a champion you don't own, feats or gear. Rough Rider asked which feats are additive versus multiplicative. I think I just covered that. Again, the random situations might change things. They're adding they're adding stranger feats. I call them stranger, but more diverse feats. So what happens in the future might be different. But look for statements, declarative statements on the feats. Right now, we know for a fact that multiplicative feats, like a percent feat that is a multiplier on the thing, all are independent multipliers. We know this, unless it states otherwise. We know that flat numbers are additive. Yeah. But it's just, this is through just, kind of what you would expect and seeing how they affect things and how they multiply things. Sometimes it's hard to tell, but there are certain abilities that make it super easy to tell, and you can test them there. Count Jan, so if I do not have 4 free feats, should I report it for developers as a bug or just wait for them to appear? It's not a bug. Again, not all champions are going to have 4 default feats. Delena's got 2. Again, her feats. Oh, hold on, let me fix captions. Her feats, there we go. Her feats were created, her default feats were created back when there were only 2 feat slots. So it made sense that she had 2. Now there's 4. They just haven't gone through and updated this all yet. It's not a bug. It's just they haven't added that content yet. So you have to wait for them to do a content pass that covers that. We had recently in the last few months, we had Feat Week. Where literally they gave away a feat every day, and then there was a bonus feat if you collected like 4 out of the 7, and so they are trying to introduce more feats quicker and find interesting ways for that to introduce them. But a lot of it's just going to be tied to these store packs and season updates, because that's just traditionally how they've done it. Del Shift B, what level does Ikoria unlock feat slot 2? I have, for most champions, I should have this. Oh, I can't tell you. Hold on. Well, now I'm gonna have to go look. I was about to say for most champions, most, not all. I'm doing a pass on that right now. I have this information in their guide on the subreddit. Somebody can put in Gaarawarr, the exclamation point Gaar underscore guides in chat to link people there. So I'm going to go, because I've clearly already updated Ulcoria, because I got that information. On this account, I'm going to go to that guide, I'm going to look. So her first feat slot is at 275, the second is at 1085, the third is 2025, and the fourth is 3185. And I also put a rough cost to get there in terms of gold. That is something I am updating, so that kind of 4 feet box that has like the feat slot number, the unlock it level of rough cost. I'm updating that on all of my champions currently. I think I've done the core champions, the evergreen champions, and the year 1 and 2 champions, and any of the newest champions, but I'm trying to get all the others in between updated, so it's just going to take me a little while. It's a lot of busy work. I tend to work on that on Wednesdays. Yeah. Rough Rider really wants me to go look at Voronika. All right, let's talk about Voronika's feat. As in the slottable thing. Because otherwise that's weird. Okay. Voronika has an unusual feat. Extended support. It changes calculating guidance. So this actually changes one of her abilities. Which, again, this is kind of a one-off. We haven't seen a lot about this yet. And it targets the next 2 columns. Normally, calculating guidance is just the column in front of Voronika. So her feat makes it so that it's 2 columns in front. So it adds an extended support. It extends the range of one of her abilities. It's something that I think would be super neat on a lot of champions, but it could also be really broken because of one champion specifically, and that champion is Artemis. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if they add more of this stuff. But yeah, so she has a bit of a unique feature there. Rough Rider, why does a Havilar have a blue feat for 50,000 gems? Again, different... just because it's a 50k gem feat doesn't mean it's going to be an epic. It just means they introduced it via a cash option. And that was back when probably in one of the early Idle Champions Presents. Folks, if you're new and you don't know, Idle Champions Presents is a TTRPG live play series that Codename Entertainment hosts on occasion, where the champion creators play their characters in D&D on stream. So this was back when on one of the early live streams, and they put out like so many feats for Havilar. Havilar has a lot of feats, and it was because she of this series, and yeah. So that's how she ended up with a 50k blue feat. But again, 50k just means it came from a cash shop option. It doesn't always, again, there's an exception to every rule. It doesn't always mean it's an epic. Phoenician Ultimatum, defeats that boost certain skills or upgrade stack. Same kind of thing. So we kind of covered this already. If you have the 20, 40, and 80, is there a benefit to equipping more of these at a time? Yeah. If that is a major ability, it is an additional multiplier. Now, you may not want to just go all in on one ability. If you've got an 80 and a 40 and a 20 for one ability and a 40 for another ability, you may want to go like an 80, 40, 40, right? Because you want to look at what the largest numbers are overall that you're multiplying and giving to your champion. However, there are certain times where maybe doing all of them, even a lower percentage, might be better. That rare scenario, I don't even know. I'd have to look at the math, and I don't like looking at the math. The rare type of scenario might be in the case of one of these mathematically OP abilities where it is a multiplicatively stacking ability that can get lots of stacks, but also has item support, and that item support is pre-stack bonus. and if feat support and the feat stat for support is pre-stack bonus, in those cases, because those are so outrageously broken, because they're multiplying against themselves, using all like the 20, the 40, the 80 might be better than even using an 80 somewhere else, because of the pre-stack nature of it. I haven't tried that out, but they just know that there are things you gotta look at sometimes, right? So yeah, a couple more questions about clarifying. Is it multiplicative? It is. Percentage buffs, percentage bonuses are multiplicative against each other. So yeah. Okay. Bliven, how do you decide if you want to buy a specific feat or just gold chests when you're still new and don't know who your team is going to be yet? That's a fantastic question. I highly recommend as a new player that instead of trying to buy targeted feats for 12.5k, but especially at 50k, instead of that, just buying gold chests. Again, 12,500 gems is 25 gold chests. You might not get a feat out it, but you're going to get 25 gold chests worth of stuff out of it. And early on, if you're still needing gear, if you're not full epic, you have a chance that there's 2 more epics guaranteed out of 25 chests, at least. There's a chance at a feat, but then there's all those potions and contracts as well. So there's a lot more power early on in 25 feats than there is in one 12,500 gem feat. A lot more, especially out of 50,000 gems. Might there be a specific situation where one of those gem feats is just gonna really help you and you want it and you know it's gonna be good? Yeah. So go get it. But generally speaking, like just going from like a 10% all champs damage feat to a 25%, like you're getting a 15% boost if you're replacing it. Otherwise it's 25 if you're adding it. But getting more items for your team and for all of your champions and getting all those potions, potentially strong. That's potentially a stronger option. So hunting feats with gems isn't something I generally recommend until you are at the point where like your core and evergreen champions are full epic. Again, there's exceptions. There might be a specific feat that's going to do well for you. But generally starting to buy lots of gem feats is something you start doing more of when you're doing more gem farming. When you have a lot more gems to spend, generally speaking. But it is a lot kind of healthier overall for the growth of your account early on to be buying the gold chests, in my opinion. Rough Rider, can you obtain a gold chest feat if you haven't unlocked the first feat slot for a champion? As long as you own the champion, I say should because this is behind the scenes stuff, and I don't know that I've tested it out. You should be able to also get their feats. Like if you've just got a champion and you haven't upgraded them at all, you haven't tried to use them at all, or even unlocked a single feat slot, their feats should still drop from chests. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. Yeah. Genie, going back real fast to the stack bonuses, does the order equipped matter? Because usually 40% plus 20% is different roll than the opposite. Well, again, they're not additive, and even multiplicative, it doesn't matter. You're getting to this. You'd be getting to the same result either way. Here's the thing: 40 plus 20 and 20 plus 40 additively is the same, and we're not doing percentages that way. Percentages don't function that way anyway, and even flat numbers wouldn't matter. You'd still be getting to 60 both ways. So even if it was additive, you're getting the same result. Multiplicative, you're also getting the same result. You are. 100 times 40% is 140. I'm just going to double check. 140 times 1.2 still gets us to 168. Yeah. It doesn't matter the order of straight line multipliers. I know this confuses people sometimes, and it's why there's also this whole large argument that I'm going to actually throw out in the community right now, because why not? It's Saturday. Some people, like when you're converting your favor at the end of an event, some people say convert right away. Some people say no, go build up more favor in the place you want to convert it and then do it, because you're going to get more. And I'm one of those. I'm team just convert immediately, because it's a multiplier, and it doesn't matter what order you do the multipliers in. You're going to end up in the same place. It's just some people like big numbers, just visually, even though you would have gotten there. It's a whole thing. But yeah, so it doesn't matter what order they're applying those multipliers in, because you're just multiplying. You're getting there. It's going to multiply them all. You're going to get to the same result. Yeah, because it's not going to stop and then add something along the way. As long as you're not, as long as it's just multiplication going on, and there isn't any addition, subtraction, or division, which there aren't in these, then the order doesn't matter. Rough Rider, is Shaka's extra puzzle piece feat a must use? Shaka's interesting, because I'm going to say no, but it's a must try. So Shaka has a celestial puzzle where 4 random slots in the formation are assigned a random tag. And then you get all these multiplicative buffs, right? But the tags are random, and you don't know how effective Shaka is going to be until you see the tags. He has a specialization that can add a tag. He has a feat that can add a tag. But so, right? If the tag that gets added isn't useful, then you can swap that feat for something else. But you would slot it and try it. Just like choosing his specialization that gives you the 5th one is worth it, just because you want to see it. But seeing what it is and where it is matters for Shaka, because he has another ability that buffs things if he's adjacent to those tagged slots. So you want to slot it. You want to see what it is and where it is, and see if that helps your formation more than slotting. If it pings off one of these things, either it's something you can actually fill and light up the celestial puzzle, or it's adjacent to where your Shaka is. One of those two things would probably make it better than other feats you have. But if it isn't one of those two things, then you would want to replace it with something else, right? So again, there's lots of situational ability based decisions you might have to make. Those tend to be the exception rather than the rule. Yeah. All right. General questions, sir. Is D2 Crafty One, is Black Viper worth getting? I mean, I would argue that all champions are worth collecting, but I say this as somebody who has them all. Black Viper, I hear through the grapevine that at an outrageous number of item levels, Black Viper is pretty cool, but I don't know. It's not like, I don't know that it's Artemis levels of cool. Most people just get on the Artemis train and go choo choo. For record, Black Viper is used to be my favorite champion in the game. Just lore and story and art and wise. But her implementation was not that great. She needs a rework. So she's not necessarily going to be like an amazing DPS for you to pick up. She isn't even necessarily going to be a strong option to pick up, but at high item levels and with the right team, we hear this a lot with these kind of item level champions. Needs lots of item levels. They need lots of item levels, and they need a right team. She's cool. But if you're not there, If you're a newer player or even a mid-game player, maybe not a high priority, right? But if you just want to be a Black Viper main, yeah, go for it. Go for it. Yeah. Things are always going to change, but Black Viper does need a rework. Her gem stacking thing was the limited power version of what Zorbu's was, and she needs something that gives her more oomph long term, to kind of even out. Like if she's like, okay, I'm good, and then I'm just I'm average, and then I get all the way over here, and then it's like, oh, hey, I'm great. She needs something in the middle that just keeps her being a good champion all the way through, right? Otherwise, she just kind of falls off for a while, and then you're like, when's she gonna get good again? And then she gets good again. Jarvolo, how many Electrum chests would be needed to gear a new character in all epic? 0. Jarvolo. Electrum chests don't give epic gear. Electrum chests drop anything from of rarities common to rare, as it says right at the end of its explanation. So Electrum chests can't get you to epic. They can't. They could get you to blue, like full blue. No real way to know how many that would get you, because they don't have any kind of guarantee on how they drop gear. It's combining Electrums with gold chests for a specific champion, or if you're doing like a named chest in an event, you can get Electrums up to green. Again, it's random. Who knows how many it would take to get you to green? But then once the champion's all green, then it would only take 6 gold chests to get you to full blue. And that's kind of how you're trying to get efficient upgrades for like event champions, is getting them to full blue. Because there's no way to, like, Electrums don't get you to epic. You need gold. You need some kind of gold chest to get you to epic. Either regular gold chests for core and evergreen champions, named gold chests for event champions, patron chests for any champion that qualifies for their patron, any kind of group chest in the shop, that kind of stuff. Ovium asks, hey, there's a Natural Time Gate weekend going on, and I have Briv, Solok, and Barrowin. Ovium, I hope chat lit up earlier and said Briv. I hope that's what chat looked like, because you want Briv. If you're unlocking a new champion and you have to choose between those 3, you want Briv. Briv is the strongest, one of the strongest tanks, one of the strongest support champions in the game. But generally top tier in both of tank and speed. Healing, arguably, in certain situations, and solid support buff. So yeah, it's Briv. Onthalon, if I can't get my Trials Word yet because another player hasn't finished their last run, will I be unable to collect if I start a new trial? I have no idea, and I have specifically not started new trials until I've gotten my rewards before. Specifically because I didn't know and I didn't want to lose out. That is a great question for Dev Insights. Dev Insights happens on Thursday. I'm actually gonna copy paste this, and I'm going to put it in my question list for Dev Insights. I'm going to make sure it gets asked. I'm going to make sure to ask it on the next Dev Insights, because I don't know the answer to that question. But you are also welcome to show up to Dev Insights and put it in as well. But I just want, in case you're not there, I want to make sure that the community gets an answer for that, because honestly, I don't know. There's somebody in the community that knows because they've done it, but I don't know. So, Mayhem Disaster. How are you thinking Strongheart compares to Avron now? It's going to be somewhat gear dependent. But Strongheart's is stronger than. But all things being equal, Strongheart is stronger than Avron. Specifically because Strongheart has a multiplicatively stacking ability with buffs that apply to the pre-stack value, and has both item and feat support for said ability. So at equal item levels, Strongheart's stronger, and the more item levels you put into Strongheart, the more OP he becomes. Strongheart's strong. Yeah. I think I swapped my Strongheart in for Averin. My Strongheart on my main account is like is it like average item level 220 or something? And hold on, let me double check my Averin. My Averin I think is higher than that. Let me get your grad. 226 on Strongheart, 392 on Averin. Averin fully gilded. I've got 3 goldens on Averin, 3 shinies. Average item level 392, as opposed to Strongheart, who is shiny on Righteous Might and specializations, but everything else is just epic. Strongheart raised my Bud, which is the thing I was basing the change on, by like E30. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Once he got stacked up. Because the thing is, it's all about Righteous Might. And Righteous Might is about critting. And then applying these... Every crit then applies... It creates a stack that then multiplies against itself for stuff. And so as long as he's critting... and building and keeping these stacks, it's a lot. So it isn't an instant, I just swap them in and it gets better. They got to start critting. Yeah. And for me, my Averin was much stronger than my Nova because of the fact that my Averin was so blinged out, right? Okay. Folks, I just want to remind, I'm seeing some questions in chat, but they don't have question in front of it, which means we kind of assume you're asking chat. So if you want me to answer, if you want me to chime in, please put question : in front, like you see down on the bottom in that white box. Khaled, in terms of free plays or variants without champion restrictions, which group do you recommend to get further? And a group of champions has the best synergy. This game doesn't work like that. Because what you're asking is all things being equal, and in this game it never really is. Unless you're playing a gearless challenge, like where people will do this. They will not open any chests, and they will play without any gear. Then there's sets of champions that are going to work better together than others. But that isn't how this game gets played normally, so I don't really try to talk about it that way. And you're never really going to have the same kind of gear and the same levels and stuff on champions anyway. So the answer truly is you need to figure that out yourself. You need to try building different formations. You need to read through your champion abilities and learn to understand how they work together and see which ones are going to work together better than others. And you're also going to have to take into account like what rarity of gear you have, what item levels they are. You're just going to have to try stuff out and learn. That's everybody that builds their own formations in this game, which everybody should, but not everybody does, has learned through trial and error kind of what works best for them. And usually you do this at your wall. You don't do it like here. And you definitely don't use this sheet. This is not useful. You use a combination of what area you're able to push to and what your Bud says. This number down here is called Bud. It should literally be a function of your damage per second. In fact, it should literally be your damage per second, because it's the biggest hit you did divided by your attack speed. Right? So a combination of this and what area you're on should determine how far you can truly go on any adventure. And you just kind of got to figure that out. Now, are there some meta champions? Sure, I was just talking about one. Strongheart. Real strong. Real strong. But you may not have those meta champions, and that doesn't mean you necessarily need to go chase them. You may be able to do just fine with what you have right now. You've got to figure that out. That's kind of part of learning the game, is understanding how to build your formation in a way that's going to get you the furthest. It is the most important thing to learn in the game. It is foundational knowledge for you to build up. So I highly recommend doing that. Samuel K. Kaufman, how long have you been running the first level in the Cursed Farmer adventure? This is a what I refer to as my test account. It has all the champions. When I do champions unlocks, I go do their unlock adventure, and that's it. I've never I only ever do the Cursed Farmer, and I always stay on level 1 because I don't know did I complete it? I don't even remember. This was an account. It was an old account that I used to use that I actually actively played on. It was a new player account. Like I do the new player account usually once a year. It was a new player account that I had done lots of stuff on and unlocked lots of champions on. And then I was like, I really need to update, like all this feed information, all these things for my guides, but I can't get the information because, well, I don't hack the game. I don't crack open the game files to get information. I try to get it from the game itself. So because I work, I'm a contractor for CNE. I was like, hey, can I just get an account that's got like all the champions, but nothing else, and then like a bunch of favor and Sword Coast? And they were like, yeah, we can do that. So this is just how this is the account I use to make my guides with in terms of getting the information. So I will never like go past this. Yeah. Skulls and Trees question. I just got Deacon this weekend in a time gate. Any tips on him? Sure. Deacon is a great new player speed champion because Deacon doesn't need any gear to get their speed effect going. It just happens. You got to kill things quickly, and then they go fast. It's confidence in the boss. Otherwise, they're going to give you damage boosts. It starts out adjacent, and if you can change it via specialization. I tend to just stick to adjacent. Doom makes it affect everybody, but I tend to, if I'm going to do damage, I'm going to go Epic Tail, Little Cobalt, and I'm going to keep them adjacent to my DPS. But they also have a speed specialization. At some point, this will probably end up being a feat once Deacon gets into a season, because they're moving these kind of speed things into feats instead of specializations. But you can choose a spec, so if you're doing speed, people tend to choose the speed spec. Deacon also has a feat for speed. Confidence in the boss, right here, 40%. So you can get Deacon's speed boosted up, it's just not through items. So he gives you a lot without you needing to invest a lot in return. Otherwise, he's a solid buffer. He's a more... He's able to be used in more types of formations than Brunor, because Brunor needs to be in the same column as your DPS. Deacon just needs to be adjacent, and you can always spec into the one where you can have him anywhere. Okay, so yeah, great option early on, pretty straightforward to use. I'm going to try to lightning round the last of these because we're out of time. Air Ground Zero, can you provide some insight on Rickety Rubble with Mert? Can't get past 649, I need to get to 675. Ground Zero, you're going to have to tell me where the hell that is. I don't know. There's something like 300 or 400 variants in this game. I don't have their locations memorized or what they do. So you're going to have to point that out real quick in chat for me to just tell me what campaign and like what adventure node maybe. Like which one off the first or roughly. I don't know. I may not get to that question. Black Widow, Black Window, is Desmond any good? Yeah. Getting him from my time gate to get to split the party, yeah. But Desmond, he's good generally speaking, but he's at his best situationally when you're dealing with either champions that are dead, like Spurt when you whack him with the hammer, or like Voronika earlier, she counts as dead all the time. Blushi in her spirit form counts as dead. If you're using in a team with that, Desmond starts doing these big multipliers. Also, if you have any escorts, so like Arya Chicken, Desmond just blows things out of the window when he's got escorts and dead people. Combine them and get bigger numbers. All right, I just heard Ricky Rebel is % damage in Avernus. We were kind of talking about this yesterday, I think. And I kind of talked a little bit about this today. What you need is survivability, right? If you're taking % damage in a variant, You want survivability. Now that you may think, oh, well, then that means I want to get a tank. I want a lot of tanks. But here's the thing. It's percent of your max health. So you don't want a lot of tanks. At most, you want one health sharing tank. One. At most. I say at most because Krydle exists. Krydle is a tank that will exist if it's a single tank frontline. Krydle is a tank that will exist on a single tank frontline who doesn't upgrade his health. He is a dodge tank. He dodges based off his overwhelm number and how many healers are in the group. They're not healing him. They're just making him refill his dodge stacks. So you can use like Krydle to dodge and keep your health low. And then you use a shielder like Calliope or Antreus. Those are the big ones. Antreus is huge, but the formation has to be right to get everybody shielded. Calliope can shield everybody, period, with her ultimate. You've also got Shaka and Dungeon Master that can do shields. Those are your next best two options. And the final one is hit or miss. Literally, it's Korth, because you have to hit who he marks to get a shield. So shielders, and no health potions, only one tank max that can health share. If it's an Avernus, you have a 3 tank front line. So the best situation there is Turiel, Krydle, and 1 tank with health share. If it's a self-shielder like Tyrell with his bite or Ayla with her shields, great, because they can provide their own shields, and then you shield the rest of your party. Gabe, is going to be a couple of we're just going slightly over. We're done with questions. How do you unlock Trials of Mount Tiamat from My Rain Man? Last question. That's going to be the last question. You need to finish the storyline in Descent into Avernus. Oh god, I don't even have unlocked this account. But once you have Descent into this looks right. Once you have Descent into Avernus unlocked, it's the 4th campaign down. You just do the adventures, not the variants, just the storyline adventures all the way through to the end. And when you complete it, you unlock Trials. You get access to Trials. Okay, that's going to be everything, folks. So, no more streams for the weekend on this channel. Streams on this channel will return on Tuesday the 18th. Remember, Wednesday there's another content drop. We think it's going to be an Evergreen champion, Commodore Crux, but there was no champion spotlight, so now we're all kind of confused. But yeah, it should be more Xerxes campaign stuff on Wednesday, is our understanding, unless things changed. I will be streaming on my channel, Twitch TV/Gaarawarr. Come join me. I'll be there in about an hour, maybe earlier. It depends. I need to eat. An hour. So in about an hour, I'll be streaming some more of that Jedi game, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, roaming around collecting stuff. They kind of upset me in the last episode by giving me a map upgrade that lets me see everything I've missed. Thanks, I hate it, because now I gotta go back and get it all. Storyline? What storyline? So come join me in like an hour for we'll be doing that. The song on the way out is I don't remember what the song on the way out. It's something fun. Enjoy. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Dragons knocking at the gate, my players at the door. Don't know how I got in here, but now I'm laying on the floor. Another day, another fight, lights of evil left a smile. I stand up tall and pull my sword, time for them to feel my mind. No wait, no need to bang, you're ready now, let's go. It's hero in time. top out the crowd. It's hero in town. This lucky boy shines when there's lives on the line. Always falling into trouble, failing where I thought I'd be. If there's someone that's in need, it's where you find lucky freely. Always falling from the sky, fire blasting from my eyes. Gonna get there on the double, I live life as a surprise.